Hey everybody, we are introducing part 2 of the Waiting Room series, Unconventional Hustle, the Miseducation of Millennial Burnout. Today, friends, we are featuring the incomparable Feyth Scott, who is the subject matter expert of industrial and organizational psychology and design. She is here to shake us up and give us the unusual response and strategies on how to beat millennial burnout. Welcome, Feyth Scott, to the Blue Couch, y'all, and welcome to the Waiting Room.
Greetings and welcome everyone back to episode 2 of Unconventional Hustle of the Waiting Room. I am your host, Jess. Thank you very much. And today, friends, I have another special treat for you. If you are coming here as a millennial, as someone who has aha moments and then moments and blips of failure and trying to figure out next steps, what your course is, what am I doing with my life, and why am I here? I have a friend, a confidant, a creator enthusiast, and a cultural strategist, Feyth Scott, who specializes in organizational and industrial psychology, here to give you gems on how to satisfy and handle millennial burnout. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is my first podcast in front of the camera.
She'll do fine. She'll do
I'm
fine.
excited.
If she can do it for the masses, she can do it for you. It's my president hands.
Not the her. No, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I'm excited for this conversation. I feel like we've been having it kind of ongoing.
We
for a
have.
long time, so it's kind of just like on camera and like
So to give our listeners a little bit of a backstory, prior to this episode, what was it, 2 years ago? Maybe 3?
Yeah.
I really think so. Coming out of COVID, and we are discussing collectively as families, people, women, especially women of color, coming out of this, what kind of mark we want to make for ourselves. How can we create life on our own terms and how to do things differently? Because there is this narrative surrounding COVID that changed the way of thinking, not only just for America, but for individuals who feel like they should otherwise, live in their truth. So in that, we met at work. And we live in the same vein when it comes to the ethos that we were talking about today. Like, we can sit here and work ourselves crazy in meeting the bottom line for corporate America and being the task, facilitators, what needs to happen. But wouldn't it just be better to be poised in our power a little bit?
Yeah.
Right? So she was giving a lot of energy, and I was
You
turning
pushed
it
it out.
back.
Here's the thing, like a lot of my friends, we were all kind of thinking the same thing, and everybody's like, "Oh no, like I'm not money driven, so it's just like I need to figure out how to navigate this space because I just need to get my paycheck, so I can do my other thing." So it was always like, "Oh, you do this, you do this, you do." I'm like,
Yeah. In finding purpose and doing things that are more heart aligned, how can we succeed in that? So we are living holistically with a W, right? And then also with the heart to serve, how are we giving back to women who otherwise are just like us, coming up, or people that may be in a space of transition who may need their help. So specifically today, this one's for the millennials. And honestly, anyone else who really feels like they're in a space of true change, not superficial. Oh, I just want to teeter along the lines of a project. Real change to help foster community and build relationships, and to also be very intentional and deliberate about leaving a thumbprint that matters not only for yourselves, but in our community. So, oftentimes as millennials, we are right here in the middle of a space where there are constructs and antiquated ways of thinking that are traditional from baby boomers. And that was passed down. Jasmine and I touched on this in my first episode about you have to get the job. Once you get the job, you have the career, you go to college and everything will fall in place. And we come to find that as we evolve as cultures, as people, that those rules don't apply. And millennials were right at the cusp of the beginning of that change where we can take advantage of what our ancestors sacrificed and what they fought for to use our voice, recreate, reinvent, and beautiful booms have happened since then. So ever so thankful to have this platform to do it. But in that, there is often this internal struggle. The approval of what we were taught and the fight against internally what feels organic and authentic to us. And in that, if you're anything like us, burnout, because you're burning candles at both ends. So, Feyth is just going to kind of walk us her own personal journey and describe like what that looks like. First of all, tell them how old you are, because they'll never believe it.
I'm 29.
Isn't she gorgeous?
Anyway. No, really. I'm learning to say thank you. Anyway. So I'm glad you said that, because that was kind of how my journey shifted. So I went to college. I was thinking, so let's actually backtrack a little bit. So when I was younger, I said, I want to work in a nonprofit, like specifically St. Jude. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I just want to work in a nonprofit space. I want to work at St. Jude to some degree. Right. So I get to college and I'm like, okay, my dad was in IT. So he was like, get your IT degree, get all of your,
follow that.
Get all your certifications. So he didn't have a degree. So he got an associate's degree when I was in like middle school, like beginning of high school. So my mom went to A&T. She got her degree in accounting. Ended up completely shifting after my parents' divorce to ABA therapy. So she started out in the school, working in special ed classes, and then she transitioned to the group home setting. So that was a shift for me. I was like, okay, like I can pivot. Like, yes, you have your degree in this, and like, yes, you kind of just figure things out and you fall where you're supposed to fall. So I always tell that to even students, because I started out in education after college. So I was working at a children's museum, was working like part-time for marketing. Then I switched to education to kind of a certain degree. So I was working with like students with an internship that I had under dinner table documentary. So that like opened my eyes to everything. So basically, when I was in college, my sister's we're only 13 months apart. So she's a year older than me. So any job internships she had, I was like right with her. She like found a little spot for me. If she was an intern, I was a volunteer. If she was working there, I was an intern. So like that was kind of how I figured out and navigated the workplace. And she got an internship for the National Gallery in London for her senior year. So I was like, again, learn the process. So she's like, applying for these applications. I got to get a visa. I got to do this. So she has a lot of work experience, again, like non-traditional. So like all these internships, working and things like that. So we were both working in college.
So in that, was there ever a goal in mind? Because what I find interesting about this particular part of your story is that, the matriarchs and the parents, pardon me, the parents in the background, much like, my parent, were centered around, this is what you can do because this is what I know how to do.
Yeah.
And I know you do well in this, which is okay. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, you probably will. Yeah. And I just find it interesting that we're all given that advice and those tools to follow. But at the same time, did you notice how many times our parents pivot? So it's kind of like, okay, so you're giving me this roadmap to follow, but then at the same time, you're not, for lack of a better phrase, practicing what you're preaching.
Exactly, yeah.
Right?
So it's like,
I can hit it.
Yeah, and it's just like, I also learned, like, I'm good at a lot of things, but it doesn't mean I enjoy doing them. So that was the internal conflict of like, oh, well, you can do networking, or you can do, like IT networking or whatever. I'm like, well, I like computers, I like technology, but I can do
I don't want to devote my life to it.
I was like, what is the creative version of this field? So I'd self-taught myself in graphic design, digital marketing, and I did that in college. I was working part-time. I had like 3 internships in a job while working and doing 21 credit.
That's a hustle.
Yeah,
that ain't one hell of a hustle.
Then I pivoted to social media marketing, and I was like, this is a lot. It's always changing, and I'm just like, this is very stressful because again, people want you to do everything and anything, and it's like they want you to build the roadmap, then they want you to do the work, and then it's like they just get to sit over here and look pretty. It's like, hold on, wait, this is a lot. But at the same time,
I think that we as millennials, for some reason, even though it's a lot, our brains are just hardwired to multitask in that way. I don't think it's as much as being overstimulated as it is just being well versed in everything. There's always this need to want to learn more. The curiosity that comes along with this generation that says, I wonder how. And then from that, the aha moments are born. And then that's when all of the invention happens and the evolution happens. So,
That's
in a way,
how I fell into my master's degree. So
so
I'm a lifelong learner. So again, I have my undergrad in marketing, business administration, and then I did a year of AmeriCorps in Tulsa. Just completely uprooted my whole life. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna go to a random city I've never been to. Nobody lives there. I don't know anybody, and just figure it out. Yeah. So I did that for a year. Worked as a TA for 8th grade math class. Loved it, but was like working 50 hours a week. We had service projects, all the things. So I was like, oh, well, they have a huge, nonprofit market out there. So I was like, I'll just find a job and just like figure it out. So I finished the year. I was burnt out, like literally burnt out physically and mentally. And I was just like, this is really far from home. Let me go home, regroup, reset, and I'll just kind of figure it out. But I went home heartbroken because, again, I went with a plan. Like, I'm just going to figure it out. I always figure it out, whatever. And it just didn't pan out that way. So I just came home. I stayed with my sister for like a month or two. I was like, I just need to get like a part-time job, reset, regroup. I wasn't paying rent with her. So I was like, I have a little wiggle room to kind of just give myself some time. So I started working at a golf course. Was working there like 30, 40 hours a week. And then I was like, I'm just going to pay off all my debt, save up 6 months of saving. Yeah, like pay off all my debt. I have like $1,500 of debt.
Wow.
Paid it all off, saved 6 months worth of money to just pay the little bills that I had and just
jumped off.
Yeah, like I took a sabbatical. I was like, I'm taking a sabbatical. I'm just going to do what I need to do, stack up some money, and then just figure it out. So that's actually how my podcast started.
That's how you maximize the window of meanwhile right there. When you have these opportunities of space, I can't stress enough. It's not necessarily all about, the rest and the peace that comes along with it. It is a forever learning process of internally what it is that you feel like you want for yourself. So when you do make the next move, even if it is in multiple areas, you can bring your best self and be 100% to serve yourself well. And when you serve yourself well, you serve others well. So, that's the main reason why I'm here. I have been down this journey several times, twice, two that I can remember. However, I wanted to be sure that the content that I'm bringing you and the information we are providing are resources. And in that, build a community where people may be stuck, having these challenges, or otherwise, want a different point of view of what life can look like if they don't follow the path that everyone is going. So, you may have to do 10 things at once or try different things, but if it's worth figuring out earlier on versus later where you fit in this crazy thing called life, just go for it. Feyth had a plan. She went home, she stacked her money. She said she paid off debt. Like, first of all, like, can we say how rare that is? In what a blank 2019. Can you just imagine, right? And just to give herself an opportunity to start on a clean slate, she was practical about it and understanding that during this time, it may take a while, but when I start, I don't have to carry all of the weight with me, so I can just take off.
So then I wanted to go to school. Like, I knew I wanted to go get my master's. So I was like, let me just get all the big things that are going to kind of keep me, like, minimize all of my living costs. So, like, and once I move, I can just kind of figure out everything. I wanted to move to North Carolina. So I was like, I'm going to go to USCG. I applied. I went to it's like an open house or something. And I was just like driving down there. I was like, okay, this is it. Like, talk with whoever I need to talk to, apply, like, go ahead and get acquainted with the staff and the professors and things like that. Then I got waitlisted and I was like, okay, we got to pivot again. So that was in the middle of my sabbatical. So I was just like, I want to grow my skills, but like, what can I do practically that's not going to cost me that much money, that's make sense, but like kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone. So I decided to do a podcast, which was like random. Like it's not, I didn't, like I didn't know anybody that was doing it at the time. Like I think I was using Anchor. I just was recording. I was just sitting in my car and just like, that was how I pushed COVID, because it was quarantine at that by the time I had started it.
It was therapeutic.
Yeah, it was therapeutic. It was like digital diary. Hey, this is kind of how we push through. And then I was like thinking about everything, my jobs, like life, like just kind of
like meeting my own goals.
Yeah, like my meeting my own goals. Like, am I in a good headspace? This was pre-therapy. So like that was kind of like my impromptu therapy, like introduction to therapy. So it was just like, and I wanted to, I'm so used to being a background person. I'm like, oh, I could write anything out all day long. So I was like, but I want to work on my public speaking. So I was like, let me just make myself do a podcast. I don't like listening to hear myself talk. Like all the things like I don't like doing, like just put it in a project. Like I always kind of pick very specific things to grow certain things or meet certain goals, and just kind of.
In that, was there any burnout, even though it's something for you initially, the way it started? And then you find out with using your voice, much like, the waiting room here, you find out just almost overnight, like you're helping people.
Yes,
like, and there's a responsibility that comes with that.
Exactly. Yeah. It was weird. I'm like, whoa, like.
In that experience, do you think that was the infancy of this trail, following you going back to get your master's into what it is ascribed to be today, future?
I think so, because I have all of my friends are creatives to some degree, so they're always like, "Hey, I'm working on this project. Like, how do I figure out?" Like the conversation we even had the other day, like, "Hey, I have this client. This is what's happening. Like, what do I do?" And I'm like, "Okay, do this, this, and this," or like kind of think about it from this perspective, or like this is how you can kind of pivot your business model or whatever. Like those are the conversations I'm always having with like all of my friends.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of went into that because it was kind of pieces of conversations that I was already having. And it's just like, hey, like check in with yourself. Like, where are you at? Like, what are you trying to do? What are your goals? Like kind of resetting.
A little breadcrumb.
Yeah. So it's just like regrouping, resetting, like figuring out what is the goal? What is the purpose of this conversation? What is the purpose of this project or this collaboration? Like kind of thinking about things more intentionally.
So where are you now? Well, where are you now with that space? Where you followed down this trail, and aside from your creative ability, obviously you have a talent. You see that there is a need from a mental standpoint, for people to heal, grow, identify, and then push forward. And aside from what that looks like internally in your own personal space, what that looks like in workspaces, whether it be your own business or if you're working for an organization somewhat, how that work self meets yourself in those two environments. And then, the burnout is somehow edged in the middle. Like, what does that look like?
So it started out as, okay, I'm working at this place, but I have all these other things going on. Like I was used to just like packing my schedule.
Yeah.
And then I get burnt out because it's like, well, I have this going on. I got this going on. But then I'm working 40, 50 hours a week. It's like, this is not feasible.
How do you find time?
Yeah. How do you
not sustain?
Yeah. So after panic attacks at work, after having really hard conversations with managers, after just like, hey, I'm leaving. Like I've literally left the job before, like you just know when it's like, it's time to go. Like you try to weigh it out, you try to have the plan. Like I literally had a therapist tell me like, oh, like don't leave until you have a plan. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. But like literally I'm spiraling. Like
my mental is suffering.
Yeah. And I told her, I said, me leaving my job is gonna fix everything that I have issues with right now. Like we're addressing in therapy. And like that's exactly what happened. So like I told her, I had a conversation with her like that week, and I ended up putting in my resignation like the next day. And I automatically felt better. And then she's like, no. And I said, no, like I feel like 100% better already, and I haven't even left yet. Like
it's almost like a release.
Yeah, like it's a release. And then I left, and it's just like I feel like physically and mentally better, like literally.
But with that release, was there ever a moment where you're just like, what did I do?
Yeah, no, it happens immediately after. I put the resignation in. So, oh, what did I do? I'm like, it's too late now. And then I'm like, oh, actually, I can just stay an extra 2 weeks. And I was like, no, just leave. Just so when it's time to go, or like I go into jobs or like projects or things like that. I'm like, oh, this is a temporary situation. This is gonna hold me till I get out of school. This is gonna hold me until this point or whatever.
Do you think that's telling though of a millennial culture? Do you think that we as a generation, honestly, find more comfort in temporary, which other people would assume is instability and flight?
Yeah.
But do you think that's kind of where our comfort zone is addressing everything with that mindset? Like, this is only temporary because I know that I want to do this for me.
Yeah. I think so. I think I've gained that mindset in finding stability, which is ironic.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like, I need to be stable. Like, I need to find a job that I can stay in a while.
Honestly, I feel like for our generation is having multiple irons in the fire.
Yeah, it is.
It sounds really crazy, but it's like, I don't want to be concretely married to one specific work path or job title or task. And then all the other parts of me, it's like atrophy. It withers away, it doesn't work out, and I'm not feeding that part of myself. So I don't think it's necessarily about keeping something going as much as it is feeding parts of myself that are underserved.
Yeah.
And how can I maximize my other abilities? So when I turn on my light, it's like, whoa, it shines.
Because that was my thing about finding a better formula for like my work me, because it's like, okay, well, if my job doesn't feed like my creative self, then I don't flourish at
work.
So it's like, okay, what things can I do outside of work to kind of feed that space, but also again give me opportunities to do something else? So the podcast.
Absolutely. So you get to a point where you have to make a choice.
You have to make a choice. It's like, okay, do I stay in work mode? Do I kind of spread myself thin in different projects, or do you kind of handpick, like, okay, I'm gonna work 40 hours a week, but like I'm gonna work within this space. I'm gonna leave my work at work. Like all the things, I had to reprogram my mind literally of like, okay, if I'm gonna be here, like this is the things that I have to do to be okay. So like I had to like kind of sit and like formulate my workflow. To like my office space, to
the office culture.
The office culture. Like how's my work day gonna look, even though like my tasks look different every day. Like when am I gonna answer emails? Like how am I gonna spend my lunchtime? Like I think about all of those things intentionally.
Right.
Because it's just like, okay, I know if this is gonna be a stressful day, I know I'm gonna be here early. So then I know I can't leave late, but like how can I kind of work those breaks into my day? How can I kind of separate myself from everybody? Because we're kind of in close quarters. So like I have an office next to mine, and then one of my bosses is around the corner, and then like I have to manage a co-working space.
So it feels like an environment.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm an introvert, so it's just like, this is a lot being front facing, and then it's like, but I need to just kind of give myself some time. When I close my door, I put some music on, like I'm just gonna answer emails, or I'm gonna go walk around, or like just kind of give myself something else to do
to get back to
to kind of reset.
So do you think, describe to us what it looks like from their point of view, right? There are obviously policies, job descriptions, things we were hired for, things that are required of us. But where do you think that rift happens, where there isn't a meeting of the minds or an agreement between the job that you're completing and the part of you that needs to be helping to be able to do that? Where's the breakdown in that miss the mark with organizations and jobs? Just kind of feel like, there are parts of you that they just otherwise don't want to accept or acknowledge, to give them the things that they need, and then take zero accountability and what that mental breakdown looks like.
I think just from experience, it's about, I think my master's degree kind of helped me again understand the psychology of organization. So like how organizational behavior affects affects workplace culture, how culture affects productivity, how even just expectations, manager communication, and like if a job says, "Oh, we're like family," that means you'll be in there tussling. You'll be in there tussling because people think about how you treat your regular family. If we're in here saying, "Oh, we're like family," that means it's gonna be a lot going on. It's gonna be a lot of conflict. It's not gonna be productive. It's not gonna be maximum productivity.
Right.
And even with like customer first. Okay, so customer first means whatever is gonna meet the bottom line.
Yeah.
Period. That means you don't work 50 hours a week. That means you don't have to pay your overtime. That means like just figuring it out and getting it done. Whereas like
it leaves space for ambiguity.
Yeah, it's just like we figure it out. We make it work. As you know, like we both know what that means. Like at the top we were at it like it's like, okay, we want to do this. It's like, okay, well, this is the process. This is the chain of command. It's like, no, all that goes out the window when one person wants something and then another person wants something else. It's like, this is not equal.
Yeah.
So like, I had to learn not to take it personally.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, okay, like I have these ideas like, well, we don't have the resources or money to do that. It's like, okay, well, this is going to help organization. This has nothing to do with me. This has nothing to do with me trying to get a promotion. This has nothing to do. This is workflow. This is going to increase productivity. This has nothing to do with me just wanting to do what I want to do. Like I'm helping the organization as a whole. But if people don't buy into that vision or that understanding, like it's this internal conflict. It's like, well, like I don't want to be working backwards or doing more than what I need to do to get to this end goal. But then it's like, you kind of get put in this funnel of like, okay, we'll do it our way. This is what we want. I was like, okay, well, this is not gonna work.
But that also ties into trust.
Yeah.
You hired me, and I'm thinking because you hired me, you entrusted me to be able to make these sound judgments, to be able to serve you.
Right.
These resources and creative ideas that I have will streamline a process, will organize things better. And we're often confronted with, how should I say it? Adversity.
Yeah.
When there are ideas that, organizations weren't used to because they weren't traditional or because they didn't appear to be logical ways of thinking. And honestly, sometimes coloring outside of the lines is what moves the needle.
Yeah.
Is what advances things. How many times were cures found in medical research because someone just had a crazy idea? So for me, it's an investment on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
I almost hate to see it one way. Well, I have this boss or supervisor or what have you, and then I'm the employee, and I always need to stay in line in order to be kept. But at the same time, and invest in me, because if you can give me the space to thrive, then the things that I can do for you without retribution, without feeling I need to draw, without feeling like my voice can't be heard, then I would consider that a family type of environment. We may not always agree, but if we're all moving in the same direction, how beautiful is that? But that's not everyone's experience. I don't think that's most people's experience.
It's not, because it's crazy because we took this design thinking class. So I'm thinking this and like, oh, how to expand creativity, but it broke it down. It's like most people that are creative, they think, oh, I need this blank slate, I need this whatever. It's like, no, you need structure to be creative because you need to know what
it just looks different.
It looks different, yeah. So it's like, and they talked about how most organizational cultures are, oh, we want these big ideas, we want this, but then it's like, in reality, you don't. You want one idea that's going to make sense and it needs to get done right now. It's not like having a pool of ideas that you can kind of pull out or like work or redo or redesign to kind of move the needle. So that reset my even understanding of creativity. Cause I'm like, I'm a creative person, but then like all my ideas are getting shut down. So it's like, I don't want to give my ideas or pitch a thing because I know it's not going to work. So it's like understanding like organizationally, the expectation is pick one idea that's going to work right now. And it's like, okay, well, how do I do that if I don't have resources? How do I do that if I don't have the budget to do it?
Or the wider picture.
Or the wider picture.
If I don't understand like the whole picture, what the end goal is, then I feel like I'm into driving the solutions to whatever it is you're asking for.
And most organizations that give that pushback don't know either.
This is true. So that's what I learned. In a similar experience, I was entering to an organization that very clearly outlined what the asks were, but they seemed to be pushing towards innovation, and they wanted solutions, creative solutions to solve everyday common problems. We'll just pick one, arbitrary, like communication. And me thinking that I want this to be fast, I also want it to be efficient. I created an app that was downloadable for everybody. So we can contact, we can share, we can streamline a process. And halfway through me launching this app in test mode, well, we don't want to learn anything new. So my response is, if it's not this, then what are your ideas? And when the room falls silent, that's the key indicator. Like they don't know either. They just, I don't know. Don't even want to throw anything at the wall to see if it sticks. So in their eyes, you are now challenging authority.
And there's a timeline, but they don't ever say that.
Right.
It's just like, okay, well, we should have figured this out 2 weeks ago, but today's the deadline. It's like,
my response is, if it's not this, then what are your ideas? And when the room falls silent, that's the key indicator. Like they don't know either. They just, I don't know. Don't even want to throw anything at the wall to see if it sticks. So in their eyes, you are now challenging authority.
And there's a timeline, but they don't ever say that.
Right.
It's just like, okay, well, we should have figured this out 2 weeks ago, but today's the deadline. It's like, again, transparency again is a thing too. Like, oh, we want to have people get ideas and do all these things. Like, we're open door what is an open door policy? What is an open door policy? Open door policy means you can send me an email and I may or may not respond. Open door policy is you can ask me a question. I'm probably not going to have an answer. I'm not obligated to answer or give you a timeline or context. Like, open door policy is you can ask.
So what do you think it does? Because we were talking about burnout. What do you think those types of work cultures and environment does to the psyche, the body, the mind, and trying to fit? Because ultimately that's what it is. We are very capable because we applied, we got the job. But at some point you reach these areas where I'm here to do my job and I want to, but it just almost seems that everything I touch, you either don't want it, you don't like it. I question whether or not I'm doing the right things. And then you go into overdrive to trying to figure out, well, how can I solve this? And how can I solve this? And how can I solve this? And to decompress on the back end, for some people, it's not, well, let me go home and have a glass of wine and take a nap. It's, I need to feed whatever it is not being fed, because at work, I'm having to figure out how to be 2 different people. Right. And then, bam, I'm back in the burnout day.
I think you have to understand and identify and understand how you show up at work. So we did this workshop about like contributor styles. So there's like creative, sustainer, builder, and it was like disruptor. So creative.
I'm a disruptor, y'all.
Hi. Creative is like, you have all the big ideas. Builder is, let me help you kind of create the system that's going to make it work. Sustainer is like, how do we maintain the sustainability of it?
Right.
And then disruptor is, hey, I'm going to pick all the holes, like identify the gaps, identify the problems. Like,
I'm amazing.
Yeah. So it's just like understanding how where you show up in that space, but also the people that you're working with.
Right.
So again, like not taking things personally. So it's like, if I have a big idea and then it's like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? I'm not saying no, but what about this? And then it's like, okay, like, so is it not going to work? Are we going to do it? It's like, well, yeah, we can do it, but like, can you answer these questions? So then I have to go back to the drawing board and answer the questions.
So what happens when leadership doesn't understand that?
It becomes It can show up in a couple different ways. So it could either be, again, like defying authority, or you kind of get micromanaged into what they think that's going to happen. Like, okay, well, this is great over here, but like do it like this. And then they're going to like, well, I need to check your email. Like, we need to meet. Like, how's the progress going? It's like, well, I don't even know what I'm doing. What is the goal? Like, we can't even sit down and talk about steps, process, goals, like,
or accept feedback.
Yeah, accept feedback. Right. If you're the disruptor in the situation, like, okay, like this is the plan, like stick to the plan. It's like, okay, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Like,
Yeah.
I think we, as employees, we have an obligation to question, not again, out of defiance, like for understanding and to drive the goal and push the needle. But at the same time, like some people take it personally. Yeah. Oh, well, you want my job. Oh, you want this promotion, or like you just want the credit for this. Is like, no, I'm literally asking so I can do my job.
But I think that also ties into the generation gap.
Yeah.
The generations before us were taught that you need to respect authority in a certain type of way and how you show up at work. And no matter what, the boss is always right. Because during those times, you are operating out of fear. If I don't do everything the way I'm supposed to, I get fired or I lose my job. And not to say that those things aren't true today. We just have more options today to be able to say, well, if this is the road that we're going to travel down, there's other ways to be okay. And oftentimes, leadership that are in older generations or traditional generations won't adopt new ways of thinking. And it causes a rift in the work environment that makes it appear as defiance. And then there's all types of passive aggressive retribution that comes along with that. Like muting your mic in Zoom meetings when you have something to say, or to Feyth's point, an open door apology
included in the meeting.
Or not even being included in the meeting. Like, then you have to ask questions. Was I, as a point of contact, was I intentionally left off of this communication? And no one wins when these things happen. So when you take it upon yourself to do something different and you're challenging yourself and you're a forever learner, like we are, and you step out there to say, these are the next steps. After that, or maybe even in that, tell us more about like what your success looks like. Where do we measure the success? How do you define it when we're always in a space of temporary, which ironically is structure and stability?
Yeah. I think for me, success, it's making everything a learning opportunity.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So it's like, I have this challenge at work, like, I need to get this project done. Like, I either need to shift my mindset or I need to like gain a skill out of it. So it's not about we getting the raise or promotion for me. It's not. So it's just like, what new skill did I learn? How did I learn how to overcome this challenge? Or how did I learn how to think about this situation differently? That's how I define success. Because if you don't learn, everything is learning opportunity. And that's what I'm always telling. She's just like, you're always going to have a challenge. Like there's always going to be something, but like, what did you get from it?
Right.
So if you don't, and it's not even about getting it right. It's just about, okay, even if I did it wrong or handle the situation wrong, because there's plenty
every day.
Every day. I say this to this girl. But it's like, again, growing from the moment. So, because you're gonna come with it again, or it's gonna come up in some different form. So, like learning how to better navigate it, or understand it, or understand yourself better to not even navigate it better, but just like handle the situation with more, giving yourself more resources, essentially.
So, yeah. And when the world tells you no, even in doing that, and the world tells you no, at that point, do you still consider it a waste of time? Do you still consider it to be
I consider, yes, nothing's a waste of time. I think everything, like I said, is a learning opportunity. So doing whatever you need to do to see it as that, or make it that, I think is key, because you went through that situation to help somebody else. Yeah. So it's like, I went through this crazy job and I got burnt out and I have, panic attacks and that's like, So when somebody else comes to you like, I'm really doing this and like I'm not in a good space, it's like, okay, like where are you at today? Like, how are you feeling now? Like, I'm burnt out. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't feel like I can kind of move to the next thing. That's when I know, like, I need to kind of pivot.
You're feeling debilitated.
Yeah, I feel debilitated. It's just like, I know the things that I can bring to this job or this opportunity or this project, but then it's like, I can't move. Right?
And when you can't
Yeah, when you move, you can't function. And then it's like, it's beyond imposter syndrome. It's beyond this, like, I'm just stressed out today. I just need to go take a day.
Right.
And
I'm not having a moment.
Yeah.
It's not PMS.
Yeah.
I'm not sister girl over here with the attitude. Those who are in environments that are racist. It, a lack of understanding that we're human beings. And sometimes people just get in a mindset and think that I'm hiring robots.
Yeah.
And I'm hiring this cog in a wheel. And what's wrong with this cog? Like, how dare you have emotions and feelings and ideas and extra resources? Like, you're the robot. And I kind of find it refreshing that organizations are popping up of late who are very cultural driven.
Culturally driven, inclusive.
Yeah.
And not even inclusive, like, in sense of culture or diversity, but just like neurodivergent. Again, everybody, you're being hired because you can do the job.
Right.
It might look different on how the job gets done.
Right.
So you can't put people in this box of, okay, it needs to be done like this at this time, this way, or like it doesn't work or it's not feasible. It's like, no, people work differently. People have different experiences, different perspectives, different cultures. Like, you have to be able to navigate all of that space.
So do you find yourself, and I hate this question, this is like, but I have to throw it so I can give you the real world response in this space. And I don't know, the next 10 years with the shift that you're seeing in the industries with work, community, even workplace culture and environments, do you think there's going to be a space where we'll ever get there where collective thinking or community thinking is going to build a new way of working? We thought we got there when everyone was like, let's do this remote. And it was like, yeah. And then
I think, honestly, no. I say no. I say no loosely because I'm thinking about AI. I'm thinking about people getting pushed to the office. I'm thinking about the industry shift from DEI to DB of just like, okay, let's kind of hone this in to make it like it's DEI is not a wishful thinking situation, but at the same time, like there's not enough buy-in yet for me to see longevity in it right now.
Yeah.
And then with AI on top of that, like it's, we're going to replace jobs. We're feeding in all this information so we can go replace X, Y, and Z. It's just like, okay, well, if we're not valuing or trusting the input that's happening now,
and
then we're replacing it with technology, like it's going to have to be a cultural shift for us to see it like.
Which makes me feel like that's one reason why it's important to learn how to do more than one thing.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, people who have graduated from high school, went to college, and then, went to college 2 or 3 times over to be mastered or PhD in certain things and specializing in the one thing. No one's saying that you can't be successful in doing that, but there may be instances where the moment someone's agenda changes about what your position is and who you are is the second you don't have a job. It's not always about you did something wrong or you didn't show up the way that you were supposed to or you didn't execute accordingly. Someone has the power to change their mind and it impacts you in a way where you may not even be to work there anymore. So what do you do? And I don't want to say the millennial generation is more versed in it. We just appear to be more natural in understanding that. And I think it kind of teeters along the line of watching the struggle of our parents and grandparents who literally had to fight to get to a certain place and only had access to do the one thing because other doors just wouldn't be open because of race, tone, skin color, gender, things like that. So, can you imagine if they had the opportunity in the space to do what we do now, then where we would be today? So I think this is like the next phase of not only doing better, but being more. And I want to lean into it. I really want to lean into it and trust myself to fall back on me. I never want to give an organization power to take away my livelihood. So forever learner, like that.
Just do what you want to do. Like I tell when I was working in education, I would tell my middle schoolers at every single time, oh, I don't know what I want to do. Well, try everything.
Yeah.
See what you like. But also just keep an open mind about what it is. Because you may not like it today.
Right.
Then you have this crazy project or something you got to do and you challenge yourself and then you like it now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing in the workplace. It's like, okay, well, pick the things that you like about this job or this project and then move forward with that. So it's like, it kind of gives you a guidance of like, I like this about what I'm working on right now, but I don't like this.
Right.
So that informs like, okay, well, I'll apply for this type of job or do this type of project or work with this type of client. Like, it gives you, again, it's a learning opportunity, like what things work and don't work.
Right.
Kind
of like a self-compare analysis to figure out.
Self-awareness is going to always be across the board.
Well, speaking of key, give us some key takeaways of what we can apply in our right now.
I would say self-awareness is key because you know yourself, you know what works, what doesn't work, where you need to work on,
right?
Where things just aren't working. So you look at that objectively. So it's like, it's not a me problem. And it may be a me problem. So like, how do I pivot? But then if it's not a me problem,
right?
Kind of not even set the expectation or generalize, but just like, okay, like organizationally, these are the issues.
Right.
So how do I fit in that space? And if I don't fit in that space, how can I pivot? Being open to pivot. So again, I do this, I get burnt out, or I want to try something else. I want to learn a new skill,
right?
Or something else.
Give yourself space. Yeah.
There. Giving yourself a network of support.
That part is paramount. I think that would be my number one.
Yeah. Network of support. I think part of my struggle was thinking that I was going to always find it at my job.
Yeah.
And so certain jobs, I'm like, oh, I used to have a mentoring manager. I used to have this, like people I could reach out to.
That's not everywhere.
That's not every place. So I go into interviews saying, hey, this is the expectation. Like, if I don't have this, and this, like, I don't work at this level of productivity. So, like, I'm telling you from
your idea of success in this role. My idea of success in this role.
I'm telling you how this is about to go. Not, we'll figure it out in a year. I'm telling you now. So if it circles back around and I'm like, this and this wasn't in place. And obviously it can look different in any workplace, but I'm leaving because X, Y, and Z. Like, I need that for me to, be able to give myself. So again, like having that network of support inside, if you can, and outside of work specifically. So like, again, having friends like, hey, try this, do this, or like help me with this.
Let's workshop.
Yeah, let's workshop this. Let's collaborate. Like help me walk through the situation. And like having that is super helpful.
I think what you just touched on something that we can probably take a minute or two to expound on. When you are looking at these job descriptions and researching these companies, applying these definitions of what they really mean when they are handing out these asks or these tasks, and where you fit in that. So there is a difference in between the expectation and the task in itself. Yeah. You can be capable to do everything on that list, but I think more deliberate intention should be spent on kind of picking it apart and understanding what is it that they're truly asking for behind, can you type this fast, or can you, what are they really?
When they say high stress environment, they mean high stress environment. They mean that wholeheartedly.
Yes.
So if the expectation is to have a high stress environment, that means everyone is going to be stressed.
Right.
That's going to play out in whenever people navigate or function in stress, that will be the expectation.
Or when they say that, you have to be flexible.
Yeah.
They
don't know what they do. Not what they don't know what they're doing, but the plan is not clear. They're in the middle of regrouping
or some sort of
transition. So there's not always going to be grace there either.
Yeah.
So that's something that you have to keep in mind. It's like, okay, yeah, we're pivoting. And it's like, you're expecting this automatic bind. It's like, I don't even know what's going on. So I'm just going to be over here. And that's what I think naturally people do that too. It's like, okay, well, I don't really know what's going on around me.
Right.
So I'm just going to kind of be here. Tunnel vision, what I'm going to do. Like I make my own
keep my head
down. Yeah. So it's just like a check out in a sense. You have to be, especially as managers, you have to be able to navigate that space.
Yeah.
So creating those inclusive supports within the workplace, or asking questions, or hey, if I don't have an answer, go talk to so-and-so, or like, oh, this is the idea you have, like this department's working on it. Like maybe this is not something you need to pick up,
right?
Whatever. But like, again, giving those resources or transparency is helpful instead of just saying no, or we can't do that, or we don't have budgets. Like, well, no, the department's working on it, so somebody got the budget for it.
Right.
So yeah, just that transparency. And then again, just thinking of things objectively, like organization. Oh, well, I'm having these issues with my manager. And then you realize the girl that left or another coworker, I'm having the same issues. Like, okay, so
it's not a me
thing. It's an organizationally, like what things can be in place to kind of support the overall organization.
That's good. So for those who are facing the millennial burnout of being all things at once, but never one specific thing at the same time, give yourself grace and meet yourself where you're at, and with time to kind of set a pace that works for you, and also challenges you in a way to discover something about you that you probably didn't know was there.
Or is there, you've just been like letting it sit in the back of your mind, or
turn up the
on
heat.
The shelf. Yeah,
turn up the heat a little bit. And who knows, your organization or next business venture may be the one that we talk about on the next episode of Unconventional Hustle.
And don't be afraid to share your ideas, because it's also something I'm learning. Just because they don't like my idea doesn't mean they don't like ideas in general, because they'll go hire a consultant.
Yeah.
To do exactly what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So marketing yourself, knowing what skills you bring, kind of being able to articulate those skills, or talk to the person that will understand what you're trying to say, even if it's not your manager or your coworker or something like that. Like, kind of not dishonoring the chain of command, but again, knowing your supports or your allies in the workplace to kind of push some things. Yeah.
So, yeah, safeguard yourself, but also honor the space where you're at to be able to do it professionally, and to see.
Yes, of course.
I'm in the hot seat on my own.
Define professional. I think that is another internal conflict that I have.
Define professional. Okay, so from my point of view, viewers and listeners, from my point of view, professional to me is being able to visually and auditorily articulate my point of view in a way that isn't offensive, but direct and transparent, and always leave space for question. It's not necessarily manipulation as much as it is assuaging the situation. So even in a space of adversity, I can, in my body language, articulate that I'm here to help serve and solve. I can say out loud, I'm here to help serve and solve. But I'm also clear in delivering what my boundary is in a place of poise, not challenging or not going up against, not pushing up against my weight class with management, but you always come with the fact, the research, and the data to support whatever it is you want to articulate. That is my definition of professional. So many times we lean into the emotion of it. You are your point gets lost, and you can behind the scenes obviously feel the way that you want to feel about it. But when you come in front of the powers that be in leadership and you want to present a pain point, something that's not working so well, or even something that's going great, you just want to push it further, you do your research, you get the data, you get the facts, you do a risk analysis, you do a compare and a contrast, and you articulate from a place of poise that helps them understand that, no, I've done my yeoman's work with this, and this is the way that it is. Not because it's my point of view, not because I'm angry, not because I'm upset, because these are the facts. And perhaps we should look at this from a data point of view. That I feel like that is professional. You have to be able to present things in such a way that is received well on paper, with data and facts, research, and never draw inward. If you are there to, for lack of a better phrase, pay your weight in salt, then you have your diction, you have your poise, you own the room. You own the room. And you always smile. That's it.
Thanks. I consider myself like very early in my career, so like those things are helpful because, again, professionalism looks different.
It does.
Every space.
It does.
And it depends on, again, the work culture, the social behavior. Like, is you see some crazy things under the umbrella of professionalism, and it's like, that's not professional.
Being an African-American woman, we don't get to decide that.
Right. And that's why I'm like, what is the actual definition? What's the realistic?
It's okay or allowable. It doesn't mean that we can buy into that. So there are some organizations I work for that were really laid back, that were really in a groove of just saying, oh, we're laid back, everything is cool. But I can afford to behave that way because the second I do, then I'm doing something wrong.
Right. Yeah.
So, my safe space, showing up in work environments, is being just that. My definition of professional. I'm courteous, I'm kind, I speak, I smile. But when it comes time for me to present or give an opinion or even buy into whatever the bottom line is, or perhaps even create something, then I, unfortunately, in this day and age, still have to do more than most because I'm an African-American female and I have to present the data and the facts to support myself. I still have a responsibility to do more because it's just what we always have to fight for. As women, as Black women, as millennials, sometimes like, well, you're too young. Like why should we listen to you? Or so you're just constantly in this space of having to prove yourself. So even if you have to, don't give them anything to refute. So you can say, we're discussing this in the meeting, but when you go to that meeting, you go prepared. You don't leave any room for doubt ever. So do your research and crunch those numbers. And if you feel like you're spiraling and you can't get there, you call up your allies and your resources and workshop something that can help you articulate your point. So you can just,
and document, like y'all tell me.
Always document. I keep a receipt. I'm the queen of a receipt. I keep a receipt.
Yeah. Those are the kind of the smaller things. Like I can self-manage myself, but like the kind of bigger things, document, like making sure.
You have to protect yourself.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you have to protect yourself because, again, like everything is at will or you piss somebody off, so then they don't come up with something to get you out
that
there.
Agenda we were talking about.
The agenda, the unspoken agenda, or just like the corporate culture of lack of transparency. Like, okay, we're about to lay off people and y'all playing with people's livelihood. It's like, hey, I got to give you a 2-week notice. You could have gave me something instead of like, hey, we're going to put this me and on your calendar. And it's like, what is it?
Right. and that's their last.
Yeah,
So those are kind of the red flags, ladies and gentlemen. You are in applying for these jobs or in these unhealthy work environments.
Learning opportunity.
Learning opportunity. Absolutely. But tell them where to find you.
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Feyth Scott, Feyth. I'm kind of not in a pivot, but I'm in a beginning of a pivot.
So transitioning.
I'm transitioning I'm not even transitioning to a new thing. It's like an old thing that's kind of been
circling.
Yeah, it's kind of circling back. So I want to have these types of conversations with students that are like going into the workplace. So it's like, hey, this is what to expect. This is how you have. Yes, like how do you.
I love that.
We have so many. I've sit in all of these sessions of, oh, this is how we career coach and how to get them the job. But like, what do you do with them after they get the job?
Right.
How do you keep them there? How do you, all these organizations want to focus on retention and how do we keep students in the area? Like, especially in RTP.
Yeah.
Like we have all this hub of things and it's like, how do you keep them there? It's like, okay, the kids can get the job. They don't really even need your help to get the job.
Right.
They have the networks, they have the credibility, they have all the things. But like once they're there, like how can they navigate that space and how can they not burn out so early in their career and have to pivot to something else or feel like, the things that they're learning is, preparing them to, succeed.
I love this. Yeah. So if you guys in the very near future are wanting to learn more or know of any college students, anyone who is upcoming and rising recent grads,
creative.
Yeah. All inclusive. We're going to drop some links in this episode in the chat below. Please, please, please comment. You have any questions? I'm always moderating my YouTube channel for anything that comes across your beautiful mind for showing interest in our research hub, Grand Central Station, the waiting room. It has been a joy. And part 3 of Unconventional Hustle will be coming very soon, and we will see you guys later. Bye.
Let's thank our special guest, Feyth Scott, our culture creative consultant and the SME Pro for industrial and organizational psychology. She did so well coming into the fray of the podcast and dropping gems on how to beat millennial burnout. For more information on how to find Feyth Scott, she is strolling the mean streets of LinkedIn all day long. Please find her links below if you want to get in contact, if you would like to talk about strategies and how you can get involved. If you are looking for someone to help facilitate your new brand glow up, as always, you can find me at ca.madebyjess on everything. Thank you for joining the waiting room, and we will see you soon. Jess of Creative Atelier, out.